For every single one of us, there are a handful of defining moments in life. For Howard Schultz, the mastermind behind the Starbucks empire, one of those moments came at just 7 years old. His father was fired from his delivery job after slipping on ice and breaking his hip and ankle. With no savings, no insurance, and no hope, that event burned into Howard's memory. Howard Schultz is now a billionaire, and while most people know him as the man who transformed coffee, his journey is about much more than caffeine. To understand how a simple coffee shop became a global empire, we need to dive into the 4 pivotal stages of Starbucks. It all begins in the 1960s. The humble beginnings. Meet Gordon Bowker. While traveling through Europe, Gordon ordered a cappuccino from a café in Rome, and it tasted different, rich, flavorful, worlds apart from the low-quality instant coffee Americans were used to. Inspired, Gordon returned to Seattle and, along with 2 friends, opened a store focused on selling high-quality coffee beans and equipment. Starbucks was born in 1971. But here's the catch. Starbucks didn't serve coffee drinks. They sold beans, grinders, and machines. Customers brewed at home. Growth was steady but slow. By 1981, they had 4 stores, all in Seattle. That's when Howard Schultz entered the story. Howard Schultz joined Starbucks. Howard came from nothing. He worked tirelessly, even sold his blood to pay for college. By 1981, he was vice president at a company supplying Starbucks with coffee machines. Curious about their success, he visited a store. 1 sip, and he was hooked. Howard saw potential where others didn't. He practically begged the founders to let him join, but they were hesitant. Even his mom said, "Why risk your future for a tiny coffee company?" But Howard was relentless. After over a year of persuasion, the founders caved. Howard Schultz was in. And soon, everything would change. The Italian inspiration. Howard took a trip to Italy, but while Gordon had fallen in love with the coffee, Howard fell for the experience. In Italy, coffee shops were like community centers. Baristas knew your name, people gathered, talked, worked. Coffee wasn't a product, it was an experience. Returning home, Howard pitched a radical idea. Starbucks shouldn't just sell beans, they should create that experience in America. Serve coffee, build community. The founders, they shut it down. Starbucks was a retailer, not a cafe. Why risk everything? Howard was crushed, but he couldn't let it go. In 1985, he left Starbucks and launched Il Giornale in his own Italian-style coffee shop. The birth of the Starbucks empire. Raising money was brutal. Howard pitched his vision to 242 investors. 217 said no. They laughed at the idea of Americans paying $3 for coffee. But Howard persisted. Finally, he raised enough to open Il Giornale, and it took off. Then, 2 years later, came Howard's moment. The Starbucks founders wanted out, and they offered to sell him the company for $3.8 million. Howard didn't have it. Worse, one of his own investors tried to cut him out of the deal. Howard was devastated until a friend introduced him to Bill Gates Sr. Gates Sr. personally confronted the rival investor, told him to back off, and it worked. Howard raised the money and bought Starbucks in 1987. From that moment, Starbucks was no longer just a bean store. It was Howard's vision. The third place between work and home. Coffee became an experience. Aggressive expansion. Starbucks takes over the world. In 1987, Starbucks had 17 stores. With Howard at the helm, expansion was aggressive. Stores popped up everywhere, not just in America, but across Japan, the UK, the Philippines. By 2000, Howard stepped down as CEO, but Starbucks was opening a new store every 5 hours. By 2008, Starbucks had nearly 17,000 locations, but rapid growth came at a cost. The 2008 financial crisis hit hard. Starbucks stock crashed, stores closed, and the brand faced backlash for losing its soul. Howard returned as CEO, and his first move was shocking. He closed every U.S. store for a day to retrain baristas on making perfect coffee. Costly? Yes, $7 million costly, but it sent a message. Starbucks was going back to its roots, and it worked. In 2009, revenue shot up by 143%. Starbucks was back. The business behind the beans. Here's the twist most people miss. Starbucks isn't just a coffee company. It's a real estate giant. Starbucks has a specialized team that pinpoints up-and-coming neighborhoods. Their stores increase nearby property values, a phenomenon known as the Frappuccino effect. Homes near Starbucks have appreciated faster than national averages. Why? Because Starbucks knows where the money is going, and they get there first. They don't just sell coffee, they gentrify neighborhoods. But that's not all. Starbucks is also technically a bank. How? Through the Starbucks app. Millions load money into it to earn rewards. Today, there's over $1.5 billion sitting in Starbucks balances, more than many U.S. banks hold in deposits. Starbucks earns interest on that money, and you thought they made money just from lattes. The future of Starbucks today. Starbucks has over 32,000 stores worldwide, but the question remains, what business is Starbucks really in? Coffee? Yes. Real estate? Definitely. Banking? Surprisingly, yes. Howard Schultz didn't just build a coffee company. He built an empire that sells convenience, community, and experience. And the most fascinating part, Starbucks isn't done yet. With expansion into new countries, investments in technology, and a growing digital banking presence, Starbucks might just be one of the most quietly powerful companies in the world. And to think, it all started with a boy watching his father lose everything, dreaming of creating something that would change lives.